Good morning and a very warm welcome to this remembrance event at Raman Research Institute. I must say, Dr. Kasturirangan considered this campus as his home. At least in the limited time that I have had close interactions, I've always, kind of noted that this was the first place he would want to go, even during the time. So we thought it apt that two of the organizations, Raman Research Institute and the Indian Academy of Science, should jointly organize a remembrance meeting with Dr. Kasturirangan's memory. And so without further ado, let me call upon Professor Raghavan Varadarajan to make his remarks. And welcome again.
Good morning. So I'm here really to talk about the contributions that Professor Dr. Kasturirangan made as the president of the Indian Academy of Sciences, because of course he's made so many contributions in so many diverse areas, and there are many other people who will follow me who will talk about those aspects of what he did. Dr. Kasturirangan served on the council of the Academy from 1995 to 2003, and he served in various different capacities, finally as the vice president from 1998 to 2000 and the president from 2001 to 2003. And during his tenure as president, there were many different initiatives that he started. He was very keen that the academy engage more closely with science education, and at the time there was a national science education initiative which was spearheaded by DST, and Dr. Kasturirangan was very keen that the academy contribute and provide inputs into science education in the country. Along with Professor Mukunda, he also worked closely with the science education panel of the academy, and there were a large number of outreach and other activities that they organized. As you know, the academy has many publications. That's one of our main activities, and although we had already switched in part to electronic publication, it was during his tenure that a number of the back issues for various journals were also digitized. He was very passionate about ensuring that there should be complete public access to a lot of the published scientific research that was done. Now, in addition to all of these, he started two important committees of the academy, the Committee on Ethics and one for Women in Science, and they have also both been quite active and played important roles. And finally, lastly, but certainly not the least of his many accomplishments, was in addition to, I forgot to mention, he also was keen that the academy be more closely involved with science policy, and so he helmed the concept of having white papers by fellows, and there were a couple of papers on traditional medicine as well as on astrophysics research in the country that came out during his tenure. And something that I think very few people could have done, he was able to get us land in Jalahalli, where now the academy has a couple of buildings, and we use it quite extensively both for summer students as well as many people who organize scientific conferences make use of the facilities over there. So these are just a few of the things that he did, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot about many of his other accomplishments and initiatives. So thank you very much, and it was a pleasure to be able to talk to you about all these things. Thank you.
Okay, so it's Raman Research Institute and the Academy, and of course there's a Raman Research Institute Trust, and I'm really glad that Professor Jyotsna Dhawan could come in person, and I'd request Jyotsna to moderate the rest of the proceedings. Jyotsna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Sauravdeep, and welcome everyone to this morning of remembrance of somebody who's impacted so many, many organizations that we take for granted in this country, especially in the field of science and technology, and in education, and in science outreach. So, Dr. Kasturirangan meant so many things to so many organizations, and many of the people who headed those organizations during his time and after are here to share with us their memories of what he has meant to each of those organizations. So we have quite a list of people who had wanted to speak to the gathering. So before we do that, I'd just like to have us stand and observe a moment of silence to remember this wonderful man. Thank you. So, I'm here on behalf of the Raman Research Institute Trust, and of course, Dr. Kasturirangan was the chair of that trust and participated in the activities of the trust and the RRI for decades. So, we have here with us today Shri Kiran Kumar, who headed ISRO and who knew Dr. Kasturirangan for many, many years, and I think is the most apt person to begin our program. So I invite Shri Kiran Kumar to come up.
Good morning to all of you. Today we have gathered here to remember a person who has, as already pointed out, left his imprint and mark on a whole lot of activities in this country. My own interaction with him started 50 years back when I joined ISRO in 1975. And though I joined in Ahmedabad, I started working with him. He was in Bangalore. He was the project director of the first project which I was working on, Satellite for Earth Observation. And from that time, from him being a project director at that time, he's growing to director of ISAC, then chairman of ISRO. And after that, he went to Parliament and a whole lot of things. I had the opportunity of, you can say, observing him through these various phases. While what he has done has already got so much of, you can say, recorded information, what I would like to do is just to recollect my own impressions of this great individual and how I look at him. If you look at, first thing that strikes you is, here is an individual who is capable of making you feel special, no matter to whom he is interacting with. He has a knack and skill of making that individual feel special, and make him feel that he can contribute a lot. Other important thing about him is again, in a way we can say he is from yesteryears, where people record a lot of things, write things, and probably many of you also would have received letters from him, even from Raman Institute's letterhead, where when some significant event has happened, he makes it a point to record that, appreciate the people who have done that, and make them, not only that, also remind them sometimes that maybe this is not the only way you can do, you can modify, change the things, and guiding. But by putting it on recorded information, it's also not easy. We can say many things while we are seeing, But when we put something on paper, what it implies and what it can carry is a very different thing. And he had the knack of doing such a thing. And then within the organization itself, if you see, apart from the ability to bring in the technological changes that are required for using space technology for Earth observation, navigation, communication, broadcasting, he was also very keen on how we can evolve in the country an ability to make newer things, look at newer aspects of life, and this is how science in space technology became a very important aspect. And probably many of you will remember when ISRO embarked on Chandrayaan program, the background that was required and the whole process of convincing, not only convincing the government, and for convincing the government, it required a lot of, you can say, opinion swell among the scientific and technical organizations. And he deftly maneuvered, created scenarios, situations where people came together, talked about it. And today, you have seen that Chandrayaan program, which started way back in 2008, has made significant impact. And today, it has also provided India a significant capability. And similarly, if you look at Aditya mission or even AstroSat mission, bringing in the scientific community for making use of the space as a platform. And then even there, one of the key things is, while India was moving ahead in technological aspects, many of the scientists and technical people in the country, how to bring them together, how to make them work on a common program is also a non-trivial task. And probably we have all seen the fruits of his tremendous capabilities, where he was not only able to seed an idea, but also make that work and then come to fruition. And another very interesting aspect which I observed in him was his preparation for any activity. Even when he is tasked to give a lecture in a symposium or a thing, he would make months of preparation. We have all been, in many ways, observers and also participants in that process. And while he himself will do a lot of final, you can say, enunciation, but in preparing for that, he also makes sure that a whole lot of people will go through nitty-gritty and details of the thing. And that is another way of not only delegating, but also training and grooming people. This is another very interesting aspect which we have all witnessed in him. And one more aspect is the ability to look beyond the immediate. See, for example, I remember he was actually able to showcase to the medical fraternity that the quality assurance programs which ISRO follows in its technical activities, the quality assurance program can be of a great significance to the hospitals and the way hospitals are run. And in fact, with the National Hospitals Authority, we did a lot of work which was initiated by him. And that is actually making a difference to the way hospital nurses and then technical staff are recording information and using it for various other aspects. And another very, you can say, striking ability of his was to string together a set of words and then make it very interesting. I still remember we were initially working on a program for satellite for Earth observation, where we were building one television payload for the satellite. We were having some problem related to the detector noise, and we spent a lot of time during spacecraft integration working on that. Then when all the things were over, we were in Kapustanyar launch site of Russia, where the satellite was going to be launched. So we were all sitting together on a coffee table. Professor Dhawan was there, Professor Rao was there. We are all taking coffee in the morning. And then suddenly he says, if only we had not had as much time as we have had now, we would not have been in this unfortunate situation of being able to muck around with the satellite as much as we have done now. So you can see that the string of words, whatever he put together, in fact, three of us put an effort to put it, and then that's how I remember and I'm able to tell. And another very important, or you can say, how to delegate and how to make various committees identify them, work on that to provide solutions. And if you look at all that, here is a great individual who not only did the work by himself, but also he made a host of other people groomed and trained and ready to continue the great work he has done. On this occasion, I would definitely remember his great services to the country and all the grooming he has done on many of us. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Shri Kiran Kumar, for that heartfelt remembrance. I now call upon Professor Balram, former director of the IISc, and of course, he will speak to us about his memories of.
Good morning. I did not know Dr. Kasturirangan as long as Dr. Kiran Kumar, but I knew him for 30 years. I first met him when we both joined the Council of the Indian Academy of Sciences in 1995. And from then on, I was constantly meeting Dr. Kasturirangan over the next 25 years or so. How would I like to remember Dr. Kasturirangan? I'd like to remember him as I see him on the screen. It was that smile of his which really carried us through many times which were difficult, and I cannot forget that smile. Dr. Kasturirangan and I, when we were on the Council of the Academy, I was also the editor of Current Science. And very often, what appeared in Current Science wasn't always to the liking of the people who ran the Indian Academy of Sciences. And Dr. Kasturirangan was witness to many discussions which were there. And I remember he invariably sort of supported me, and he also had that smile on his face which then diffused any difficult situation that arose. For many years, I knew him in different committees, and one day he called me to say that he had just become the chairman of the Council of the Indian Institute of Science. Dr. Ramana had passed away, and shortly thereafter, a new director was to be appointed. And I was appointed, and he called me to tell me that I had been appointed. And he began the conversation by saying, well, I'm going to ask you something, please don't say no. And I, of course, said I won't say no. And then I worked with him for the next 9 years when he was the chairman of the council. And I can't imagine a time in which I've met him so many times in so many different situations and always come away both encouraged, supported, and he supported the Institute to the hilt every occasion. I will recall only one instance, and that was a very unfortunate instance. What happened on the 28th of December 2005 when there was a terrorist attack on the Institute. And there was a death. A professor from IIT Delhi attending a conference died. It was a terrible time, and nothing in your training prepares you to handle a situation like that. I had been in the directorial chair for the last only about 6 months at that time. And politicians had descended on the place, intelligence people had descended on the place, there was police everywhere, and there was general chaos. And while we were trying to sift through the chaos, we suddenly realized that 2 days later, we had arranged the ceremony which is there for awarding medals to students and their degrees. And while the Institute did not have a formal convocation at that time, it still had the ceremony. And it turned out that students would show up in large numbers with their families, and many of them had already arrived because it was 2 days later, and everyone likes to come to Bangalore and come to the campus. I asked Dr. Kasturirangan at that time, I said, we want to go ahead with this ceremony, we don't want to cancel it, despite a great deal of pressure to not have a gathering. He said, yes, I will come. And then I asked him, will you come and will you speak? So for the first time, we had what one would call a makeshift convocation and a makeshift convocation speaker. And I think when Dr. Kasturirangan finished and we had given away the medals and the degrees and everything, it turned out that calm had descended on the place. And I will not forget this ever. I met Dr. Kasturirangan regularly at that time, and we went through many difficult times, in all of which I had his full and unstinting support. He had a remarkable ability in committees to build a consensus. And this is why Dr. Kasturirangan was involved in so many activities for different agencies across the country, whether it's the new education policy, or whether it is the Western Ghats report, or whether it is something else, you would always turn to Dr. Kasturirangan. He was what I would call the ideal chairman who would bring everybody, all the competing elements of the committee, to come to a consensus decision. This is a very rare quality. I give you only one example. I was in a committee in my later years, in I think probably around 2011 or so, to appoint a Vice Chancellor for Jawaharlal Nehru University. I'm sure all of you have heard of the university. It's a university noted for upholding democratic traditions. And it turns out that I was afraid to go there and select a Vice Chancellor, because it is a sort of place where everybody has an opinion. And Dr. Kasturirangan, the economist Nitin Desai, and the 3 members of the committee, we went there. And after we reached the university, Dr. Kasturirangan says, we are going to talk to everybody in the university. I said, how are you going to talk to everybody in the university? He says, we're going to call them one by one. We're going to sit in a big room, an auditorium, and then the staff will come in, the students will come in, the faculty would come in. Then I thought, this is now going to be one of the most exciting days of my life. He, of course, delegated something. He gave me a responsibility. He says, whatever anybody says, you please write it down. So I said, okay. So I was then the rapporteur for the event, and I had a pad on which I noted down. So the students demanded various qualities of the Vice Chancellor, the faculty demanded various qualities, the staff demanded various qualities. And by the time I'd written all of this, there were 60 qualities that the Vice Chancellor should possess, which would satisfy everybody in the university. So I told Dr. Kasturirangan, look, I've got these 60 qualities, what are we going to do now? He smiled, and there is the smile, and says, we will manage. And then we retreated to his house, just the 3 of us, to pick the Vice Chancellor. We did. And I must say, we were very successful, because for the next 5 years, Jawaharlal Nehru University did not appear in the newspapers at all. And I would say that this is a great tribute to the fact that Dr. Kasturirangan invariably had the feeling of the pulse of whatever organization he was responsible for. And I think this allowed him to help many organizations across the country. In coming here today, the only thing that I like to remember is that my last occasion on which I saw him was right in this very building here, where he was chairing a selection committee, and I was a member, and I came here, and that was the last occasion I saw him. I will always remember him as this picture here, and I am really privileged to have known him. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Balram, for those wonderful memories. I now call upon Professor V.S. Ramamurthy to give his...
Dr. Kasturirangan occupies a very special place in my life, particularly in the last few decades of my professional life. I had not known him for so long as Kiran Kumarji or other people, but I met him for the first time one-to-one after I took over as Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. I have always known Dr. Rangan as a leading astrophysicist. We almost joined the professions at the same time. And I also knew Physical Research Laboratory, Ahmedabad, and his contributions to cosmic research was known to me, but at a personal level, I had not met him at all. When I moved to DST in 1995, Rangan was already there as Secretary, Department of Space. The two departments have a lot of overlap in their agenda. But in Delhi, if you have an overlap, you have already created an enemy. So many people warned me, be careful of Department of Space. My experience as Secretary DST was very different. We had the closest ally, and I think Kasturirangan had a major role in that. One area which comes to my mind was the digital mapping. That was the time when digital mapping was just taking roots. And many people in DST saw Department of Space as a competitor. And the reverse was also true. Many people in Department of Space thought, why DST is getting into this? Unfortunately, for historical reasons, DST had Survey of India with the entire digital space data with them, the ground data with them, and with the increasing use of remote sensing, Department of Space was also there. So it's not surprising that the two departments were looking at each other with a little bit of suspicion. Kasturirangan was my friend at a personal level, and we ensured that we don't have a conflict. And that sense percolated into the departments. Many of the people in the departments started viewing the two department contributions in a completely different perspective, and I think it was due to Kasturirangan's ability to manage perceptions, manage people. The collaborations at that time, 20 years, 25 years before, led to the national spatial data infrastructure today, which is taken for granted, almost taken for granted. But we owe it to Dr. Rangan that actually took place, because I know if there is a competition between the two departments in the Government of India, that is the death knell of that project. It did not happen in the case of in this digital data. I also recall, everybody knows Chandrayaan today. Even the kid in the school knows it. But in the 90s, there was no Chandrayaan. And I heard Chandrayaan from Dr. Rangan, because after 1998 event, we had organized a Technology Day lecture. The lecturer was Dr. Rangan. And he gave a talk on Chandrayaan. First time we heard it. Obviously, can it be done? Can we really do it? That's a starting assumption. But at the end of 1 hour lecture, we did not have that. When are we going to do it? It was within 10 years, the project was on, right? But the country heard about Chandrayaan on that day when Dr. Kasturirangan gave the Technology Day lecture. As was mentioned already, Rangan also played a major role in the creation of several new national facilities. One facility which comes to my mind, the father or mother of that is sitting here, Ramnath Kausik, the Hanley. The Hanley at that time was an area which cannot be reached by anybody. And our friend came back and said, we would like to have the observatory there. I said, no way, this cannot be done. You cannot even go there. Where is the question of taking a telescope, installing it and getting it running, going through 365 days in a year? Not during summer when it is pleasant to go there. 365 days in a year. So there is a lot of skepticism across the world, across the country, across the scientific community, that the idea of Ramnath Kausik is of the mind. Today, the site hosts not only that telescope has become a minority now, several other facilities have come into existence there. And many people tell me, I have never visited Hanley. Many people tell me, you can go now. I said, I need help even to climb a step. He said, that's not a problem. It's so easy to reach Hanley today and go and spend some time there. And the credit goes to, yes, of course, Ramnath Kausik, but behind him was a solid rock, Dr. Rangan, who gave him the support from the institute side and from the government side and from the planning commission side. So multiple sides he helped to establish this center. He also helped in establishing the Nainital Observatory today. So his contributions to astronomy and astrophysics beyond just the space technology was also something which we need to recognize and we cannot neglect at all. Rangan relinquished charge as secretary little ahead of me, 1 year before I retired, but we maintained our professional interactions. I used to go to him for consulting on many issues because many people thought in Delhi that we are cousin brothers because we do talk in Tamil, and they thought these fellows are always smiling, so there must be something behind it. How can two secretaries smile at each other and work? And here are two secretaries. So we used to maintain a good relation, and that relation continued till his last date. During 2004 to 2009, Rangan was director at National Institute of Advanced Studies here. During his tenure, he formulated the doctoral program. He has always had a soft corner for human resource development. And when he came to NIAS, he said, but you can't have a research institute but no students, no PhD program. So first thing he started was the PhD program in NIAS and many other research programs beyond what was already going on, but which have become currently important, national importance. Like, for example, environment, the segment of society, what we call as the neglected part of the society, so many other things. Incidentally, he was also instrumental in bringing me to NIAS, because he was moving to Delhi, a planning commission. So he said, Ramurthy, you better come here. I said, I don't know Bangalore, and I don't want to end up in Bangalore. People say if you have not lived in Bangalore, you will get asthma problems. And my poor parents were also there. So I said, no, I don't want to come to Bangalore. I have already purchased a house in Coimbatore. I'm going to go there. Air is clean and good in Coimbatore, even better than Bangalore. He did not give up. And he succeeded. So one day, in my weak moment, I said, okay, I'm coming. And that's the end. I ended up here. In 2009, I came to Bangalore, and I have not left Bangalore after that. I'm literally stuck here. And our interactions continued, because he continued as Professor Emeritus in NIAS, and subsequently also in RRI. And I continued after retirement from NIAS as Emeritus Professor. And we have been talking on several issues, whether it is education, whether it is something else, something or other. Either I visit him here, or he comes to NIAS once in a way. And the last few months, I used to visit him in his house. So our interaction continued almost till the last day. I will always remember Dr. Rangan as a colleague, as my friend, as my mentor, and as many people said, as my close relative in some form or other. Right? Thank you very much. I'm sorry I will miss him, but I will not miss his smile. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ramurthy. The next speaker is Sri Ganesh Pillai, Scientific Secretary, ISRO. As you can imagine, Dr. Narayanan would have wanted very much to be here, today to speak about his predecessor, who did so much for that organization. But as you would also know, ISRO has its hands full right now. So we welcome Shri Ganesh Pillai.
Very good morning. Respected Professor Tarun Sardeep, Director, Raman Research Institute, Raghavan sir, Kiran Kumar sir, former Chairman ISRO and Secretary US, and all the eminent personalities assembled here. I am honored to represent the Indian Space Research Organization, of which Dr. K. Kasturirangan sir was an integral part. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Kasturirangan sir is widely regarded as a visionary who gave a push to the Indian space program. People used to refer to him as the person with a Midas touch, as whatever he touched turned into a success, be it in the space program, education policy, or nation building. He also ensured that space technology served the broader goals of national development and a societal benefit. As a youngster, I remember attending his reviews at ISRO headquarters and centers. The clarity he brought into the review was truly commendable. His oratory skill was par excellence, and we used to eagerly wait for his address. He was an excellent role model for all the youngsters. Dr. Kasturirangan sir's association with space program started from his student days itself. He did his PhD, followed by a research associate at PRL Ahmedabad. At PRL, he was involved in the development of scientific payloads for satellite missions during his stay, which led to the early foundation of space instrumentation in India. At PRL, he worked with the pioneering Indian scientists under the guidance of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and Satish Dhawan. Sir joined URO's Satellite Center, earlier it was called ISAC, and initially worked as project director of India's experimental Earth observation satellites Bhaskara 1 and 2, which are the forerunner of the remote sensing program of India. He was the director of URSC from 1990 to 94. He led the development of IRS 1A and 1B and INSAT 2 as director of URSC, laying the foundation for India's remote sensing program. One can say Dr. Kasturirangan sir is the father of Indian remote sensing program. During his time at URSC, India progressed towards integrating more complex satellite bus systems and advanced payloads. Sir's mentorship within ISRO during his time at URSC played a pivotal role in shaping a generation of Indian space scientists and engineers. His vision laid the groundwork for modern URSC, which continues to be a hub of ISRO's satellite program. Sir served ISRO as chairman from 1994 to 2003, during which time he witnessed several of ISRO's ambitious projects like INSAT, IRS, and operationalization of PSLV. He pushed the development of GSLV that witnessed the successful flight test, paving the way for India's self-reliance in launching communication satellites. These initiatives significantly enhanced India's capability in space-based applications, including but not limited to weather forecasting, natural resource management, telecommunication, and disaster warning. Just before taking over as chairman of ISRO, the US sanction 1993 blocked the transfer of cryogenic technology from USSR, signed in early 90s. Dr. Kasturirangan sir was in forefront for the indigenous cryo engine development for the upper stage of GSLV, India's own CUS engine, which was eventually flight tested in 2010. Sir initiated India's ambitious project Chandrayaan. He left no stone unturned in getting the maximum support from the national scientific leadership on Chandrayaan through deliberations and open reviews. Sir also laid the foundation for the AstroSat project, India's first multi-wavelength observatory dedicated to astronomy, which turned out to be India's most successful science mission. OceanSat-1, India's first oceanographic satellite, was also launched under his tenure as chairman ISRO. Dr. Kasturirangan sir always encouraged importance of management science for scientists. It's not a surprise, hence, that Human Resource Development Office of ISRO started under his leadership. The ISRO Induction Training Program, Structural Training Program, and other human resource initiatives were started during his chairmanship. Sir served as a member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha from 2003 to 2009, putting his expertise into national policy and governance. He contributed to several parliamentary committees related to science and technology, environment and forest, and human resource development as member. He was member Science of Planning Commission from 2009 to 2014, and was instrumental in formulating the 12th five-year plan of the total science and technology sector of India, promoting mega science projects, international cooperation, and taking initiative for pan-India missions projects in the area of agriculture, health and energy, and environment. Throughout his life, Sir led efforts to the cause of space science in India, leading to its growth within India. Through his leadership in both ISRO and India's premier astrophysical institute, Dr. Kasturirangan sir has ensured that India remains at the forefront of both space-based and ground-based astronomy, advancing not just science, but also India's global scientific stature. Sir's contribution to the nation development is not limited to ISRO and space science alone. Sir played a major role in shaping India's education and science policy as chairman of the committee that drafted National Education Policy 2020. He is instrumental in modernizing India's education system to make it more holistic, flexible, and aligned with the need of the future India. Dr. Kasturirangan sir also made a significant contribution to environmental conservation through his role as chairman of high-level working group on Western Ghats to evaluate and recommend sustainable development strategies for the ecological sensitive Western Ghat region. This report is popularly known as Kasturirangan Committee. Dr. Kasturirangan sir, also well known for scientific governance, was the Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and Director, National Institute of Advanced Studies, providing direction to multidisciplinary research and think tank analytics in varied areas like technology, social science, etc. Despite his demanding schedule and numerous responsibilities, Sir had made a remarkable contribution to academic scholarship. He has authored over 250 research papers in leading national, international referred journals, and also served as editor of 9 books. A passionate communicator of science, he has delivered more than 350 public lectures, talks, and memorial addresses, reflecting his commitment to knowledge dissemination and public engagement in science and education. Dr. Kasturirangan sir received numerous prestigious national and international awards, honors reflecting his decades of service to India, particularly in the field of science and technology. They are innumerable to mention here. Some of the notable awards are the 3 Padma Awards, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Vibhushan, Sri Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, Vikram Sarabhai Memorial Award, Lifetime Achievement Award of ISRO, International Von Karman Award by the International Academy of Astronautics. He was also conferred the Rajyotsava Prashasti in 2014 by Government of Karnataka. We shall forever remember Dr. Kasturirangan sir as a patron of space science in India, an epitome of scientific governance, a visionary academician, and a mentor. The ISRO and scientific community of India will forever be indebted to Dr. Kasturirangan for his infatigable support and inspiring leadership. May his legacy continue to inspire generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shri Pillai, for reminding us of Dr. Kasturirangan's illustrious career within ISRO, as well as all the other elements that he contributed to. I'd like to call upon Professor Tarun Sauradeep, Director of RRI, to speak to us about Dr. Kasturirangan's association with this institute.
Good morning. So I'll begin by saying the first time I met Dr. Kasturirangan was on this campus. I had come to present with Bala Iyer, who was here, and a few others, Ajit Kimbhavi and all, the idea of LIGO India, and he, as the member science of the Planning Commission, gave us a very patient and very encouraging hearing. So Dr. Kasturirangan was both a visionary and an extraordinary leader who led from the front, sparing no effort to bring every vision to fruition. I think someone mentioned a Midas touch. I think the Midas touch comes from the fact that, I've seen him work for the NEP, and, I would say I've never seen anyone work so hard. I mean, I used to feel ashamed to leave the office because he would be still there. So, You will hear this repeated across the entire spectrum of institutions, national initiatives, and individuals he touched during his remarkable career. Hence, this solemn occasion is also a time to celebrate an intensely colorful and spectacularly fruitful lifetime. Based on the few years of personal and close association, I feel that he would greatly appreciate that. Dr. Rangan, as he was known to most, had a very long association with the Raman Research Institute, going back 36 years to 1989 when he first became a member of the Governing Council. When he first joined the RRI Governing Council, it was then chaired by yet another visionary leader, Professor Satish Dhawan. Yet, it is clear from whatever I could see that Dr. Rangan was a live wire even from those early days, and is credited with supporting many progressive proposals. And Professor Raghavan mentioned about the land in Jalahalli, and I'm glad to say we are trying to build a frontier labs for the piece of the land that RRI has. And then also bring out a brochure highlighting the 50 years of research during the Golden Jubilee. And this explains to me why he was so excited to see a Nature India volume that came out in the Platinum Jubilee. And he was very, very happy to see that. In 2000, Professor Satish Dhawan asked Dr. Rangan to take on the chairmanship of the Governing Council. He ably led a gleaming and distinguished Governing Council that featured many other eminent personalities. Professor Pradhiman Kaur, Professor Obed Siddiqui, Professor Ajay Sood, Professor Rajaraman, just to name a few. And in 2016, he handed over the council chairmanship to Professor Sood. His deep connection to the Raman Research Institute is reflected in the fact that he served in the RRI Governing Council right until his demise. Quoting from his autobiography, he says, "My present association with RRI is a constant reminder that small is beautiful." At the untimely demise of Professor Radhakrishnan, he was invited by my predecessor, Ravi Subramaniam, to occupy the trust office at RRI. His presence on campus proved to be a boon to all members and the institution itself. And many of us cherish his cheerful, larger-than-life presence at the institute. He absolutely radiated energy and had a very infectious enthusiasm. More personally, his deep admiration for the Raman Research Institute was evident to me from the time he first approached me to be nominated to the post of the director. It was reiterated repeatedly as he constantly egged me and my colleagues on the path to a vision for RRI befitting the stature of a founder. Indeed, his message in the copy of his autobiography that he gifted me right at the start of my term starts with, "While wishing you a successful stint to lead RRI to its pinnacle of success." I'm reeling from that because never had anyone expressed this amount of confidence in me earlier. Now I understand from Professor Kiran Kumar that this was a trait where he made everyone feel special, and I'm glad that I'm one of them. I learned just so much in the few years of personal and close association with him, and I'm sure many RRI family members would say the same, and there are many of them here. He will be deeply missed. The RRI family will strive hard to fulfill the very high expectations he held of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun. I now request Professor Jairam Chengalur, Director of TIFR, to come and share his memories of Dr. Rangan.
Thank you. Before I say something on behalf of TIFR, I'd like to read out a message from Dr. Ajit Kumar Mohanty, the chairman of the AEC and the secretary of the Department of Atomic Energy. He had wanted to be here in person, but unfortunately he could not, and he requested for this message to be read out on behalf of the DAE. So let me start. He says, "It is with a deep sense of loss that I, on behalf of the Department of Atomic Energy, convey a heartfelt tribute to Dr. Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan, a towering figure of Indian science and one of the most influential architects of India's space program. Dr. Kasturirangan's visionary leadership as chairman of ISRO and secretary of the Department of Space transformed India into a spacefaring nation of global repute. From the operationalization of the PSLV and GSLV to pioneering remote sensing and the founding vision for Chandrayaan-1, his work reflected an unyielding pursuit of excellence, self-reliance, and scientific ambition. His connection to the Department of Atomic Energy was both institutional and intellectual. As a distinguished member of the Atomic Energy Commission, he brought to our deliberations a valuable breadth of scientific perspective and foresight. He was an ardent proponent of the synergy between India's strategic science institutions, and his advocacy for integrated national capability across science, space, nuclear, and high technology domains has left an indelible imprint. Dr. Kasturirangan also played key roles beyond the scientific realm as a member of the Rajya Sabha, a former member of the Planning Commission, and the chairman of the Karnataka Knowledge Commission. Dr. Kasturirangan's contributions to the new education policy were profound and reflected his belief that science must serve society and that the future of the nation lies in nurturing creativity and critical thinking among the young. To the Department of Atomic Energy and to the scientific community at large, he was a role model, always inspiring, always thinking of the next frontier. Dr. Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan's marking away marks the end of an era, but his legacy will resonate for generations to come. On behalf of the Department of Atomic Energy, I offer our deepest respects to Dr. Kasturirangan and our sincere condolences to his family, friends, and colleagues. Now I'd like to say something on behalf of TIFR, where Dr. Rangan's passing away has really been an immense loss to our institute. We were fortunate to have a very long association with Dr. Kasturirangan, particularly as a very valued member of our governing council for close to 2 decades. As a member of the governing council, there were a number of major initiatives that he supported and which TIFR undertook during his tenure on the council. This include the setting up of the International Center for Theoretical Sciences here at Bangalore. This is a unique outward-facing center of the TIFR system. And he also helped us in getting set up the new multidisciplinary campus at Hyderabad. His support on getting these new activities going was invaluable, and it ranged not just in helping us give an overall shape and direction to these initiatives, but also in helping with the nitty-gritty details of the execution, such as in helping with the land acquisition for ICTS, ensuring water supply for the new campus, and so on. We are now, after several years of hard work by many people, ready to break ground on the construction of our ambitious new campus at Hyderabad, and Dr. Kasturirangan's absence there will be keenly felt. Dr. Kasturirangan was also a very strong supporter of AstroSat, India's first dedicated astronomy satellite, where Professor Agarwal from TIFR was the PI, and several of the payloads were built at TIFR. AstroSat has been an extremely successful mission, and I think it would be fair to say that it was instrumental in cementing India's place as an important player in space-based astronomy. There are a huge number of other programs at TIFR where his guidance, support, and encouragement were very, very important. Far too many for me to get into detail, but I would like to mention a few, including the Olympiads program of our Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, where we train school students from across the country, and as you probably know, India does extremely well in these Olympiads. The giant meter wave radio telescope that NCRA-TIFR has built and operates, as well as reconnecting the faculty at HBCSE to the national program of textbook creation by the NCRT, so that all of the research and other work done at the HBCSE could actually translate into better textbooks for the country. For the TIFR council meetings, there was a long-standing tradition where Dr. Kasturirangan arrived in Mumbai a day before the council meeting, and he would have dinner with the director on the eve of the council meeting. This gave one the opportunity not just to discuss any tricky issues that were coming up before the council, but also just to informally discuss any issues that were going to come up at TIFR where you would like his advice. I certainly look forward to these sessions, not just because of the sage advice that he would give, but also for the warmth and friendliness that he would bring to these interactions. And in that context, I'm really very pleased with the photograph that has been put up over here. I think it really typifies, for me at least, what Dr. Kasturirangan was. I mean, there was that cheerfulness, that friendliness, that enthusiasm, which sort of buoyed you up every time you met him. And, it's not just me. When we had a remembrance for Dr. Kasturirangan at TIFR, this was a sentiment that was echoed by all previous directors of TIFR. It has been my great privilege to interact with Dr. Kasturirangan over the last couple of years, and I will miss his wise counsel as well as his warmth and friendliness for TIFR. Our debt to him is immense, and on behalf of the TIFR family, I would like to offer our deepest condolences to his family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chengalur. We now have a short video message from Professor Ajay Sood, who was chairman of the Governing Council here for many years and is now the principal scientific scientist.
It was a privilege and a good fortune to know Dr. Kasturirangan personally. His demise is an irreparable loss to the entire scientific and academic fraternity of our country. I got to know him in 2001 when I was secretary in the Council of the Indian Academy of Sciences under the presidentship of Dr. Kasturirangan from 2001 to 2003. This was the beginning of my long and memorable association with Dr. Rangan. During his presidentship of the Indian Academy of Sciences, we two secretaries, me and Professor N. Balakrishnan, used to meet Dr. Rangan in his office once a month in the evening to discuss the action points for the academy. It was inspiring to see that in spite of his extremely hectic schedule, he spent quality time with us to brainstorm many issues related to the academy in particular and science and technology ecosystem in the country in general. The other platform for my close interaction was the Raman Research Institute Council with him as the chairman. I remember that during one of the council meetings in around 2016-17, he proposed that I should take over the chairmanship of the council as he wanted to mentor a young person like me, a rather bold decision not often seen in our institutes. His presence in the RRI Council was always a learning experience for me and other council members. His suggestions and insights were very direct and helpful in the background of the overall picture of science in the country. He was keen to see that RRI should play an important role in national missions. The new education policy of India is a true legacy which will continue to shape the future of education in India for years to come. I recall very insightful discussions with Dr. Rangan during the formation of the policy. After moving to Delhi in April 2022, I met Dr. Rangan a couple of times during my visits to Bangalore, and he always had very useful advice and suggestions for me. I will miss these interactions very much. I end my tributes to the great soul by reiterating that I feel blessed to have the privilege to know Dr. Kasturirangan, a finest human being and a source of inspiration to me and many, many people around the globe. He truly enriched our lives. We'll miss you, Dr. Rangan.
I invite Professor S.K. Satish, the Chief Editor of Current Science, to speak to us.
Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to thank the Director RRI and the President of Indian Academy of Sciences for inviting me to this occasion. It's my privilege to share a few memories of my interaction with Dr. K. Kasturirangan, and popularly known as Dr. Rangan. Dr. Rangan was a visionary and mentor, a man having great ideas on a variety of disciplines spanning across basic science, social science, applied science, sustainability, planning, management, and administration, only to name a few. He was a great leader, silent institution builder, and a true servant of the nation. He served as the chairman of ISRO from 1994 to 2003, as many of you have mentioned. Under his leadership, ISRO took huge steps forward in space exploration. As we all know, he guided the development of PSLV, GSLV, ISRO's workhorses even today. These powerful launch vehicles propelled India to attain its glorious accomplishments in space, launching a range of satellites for remote sensing, communication, terrain mapping, weather monitoring and forecasting, as well as for basic science and planetary explorations. Thanks to his vision, nurturing and guidance, India became known around the world for his space capabilities. So Dr. Rangan's focus was not only on space. He was equally interested in processes on Earth, the geosphere and the biosphere. He drafted the first comprehensive vision document of ISRO's Geosphere-Biosphere program. And this project became a benchmark national program and took ISRO's climate science research to the forefront of similar international efforts. It was related to ISRO's Geosphere-Biosphere program. I had my first interactions with Dr. Rangan. As a junior research fellow of Space Physics Laboratory of Vikram Sarabhai Spender in Thiruvananthapuram, I had an opportunity to participate the IRS P3 satellite validation experiment on board ocean-going research vessel Sagar Kanya in 1996. And this was to provide ground truth for successful validation of the satellite products and retrievals. So after the experiment, I got an opportunity to present the results in front of him as the chairman of ISRO. And in this meeting, he was highly appreciative of the results and the efforts we have made, and encouraged us for more similar activities in the future. So as you can all imagine, for a research scholar, meeting the chairman of ISRO was really a great honor and inspiration for me. And subsequently, after PhD, I moved abroad for postdoctoral research, and our interactions resumed a few years later. And after I returned to India and joined Indian Institute of Science in 2000, and he completed his responsibilities as chairman of ISRO. And it was during this period that our interaction became very close and very extensive. We had extensive interactions on a variety of topics related to science, society, policy, sustainability, climate science, mitigation, management, and administration. It's only to name a few. I have greatly benefited by the knowledge gained through these interactions with him. Our interactions were both professional and personal. I had the privilege to talk to him a lot of personal matters as well. On professional front, I would like to say two examples. The most important one was related to the important project Future Earth program. Future Earth is an international science cum policy and sustainability program supported by various United Nations organizations. Dr. Kasturirangan was the chairman of the governing council of Future Earth in South Asia. This was a very high-level council, including policymakers and high-level officials from various nations from South Asia. In the first meeting itself, Dr. Rangan reminded us about a proverb that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Please remember that. So any discussion or policy decision we recommend, you should keep this in mind. He always said that it is very important for the scientific community to engage with diverse decision makers in government, private sector, civil society. That is the only way you can tackle problems associated with climate change. That is the first time we got connected to policy makers and the general public. So since then, with his advice, we started interacting with policy makers and public. And he was also saying that India's science bases, ongoing programs, excellent research output, physical size with the substantive aspect of human dimensions, all built as part of ISRO Geosphere Biosphere program, all you should utilize when you come up with any program related to Future Earth. With his guidance and support, a Future Earth Secretariat was established in India. It was a global secretariat. We got upgraded it to a global secretariat. And Dr. Rangan always believed that this would provide the country an opportunity to take a leadership role and expertise on the science behind rapid global change and formulate strategies to drive the society along a sustainable pathway. That is what we are still doing even today. In Future Earth meetings, Dr. Kasturirangan insisted that we should integrate all available information and develop strategic knowledge to tackle and face consequences of climate change. He said that in Geosphere Biosphere program, whether it is ISRO or international GBP, what he felt is that, we are always talking about problems. Please tell us about solutions. What are the solutions? That is what he was always interested. So he always advocated for region-specific strategies and solution-oriented issues, since problems we face in South Asia are quite different from those of other nations. He always told us that any research we do should have a benefit to society. He was always insisting on that. And he was very keen in utilizing satellite data for the benefit of society. He always encouraged us to use ISRO satellites. Dr. Kasturirangan was truly special because he used science for well-being of the people. As much as he was focused on space technology, he has also focused about how space technology could help improve the daily life of people in India. Program like EduSat for education, ResourceSat for managing land and water are just examples. He has demonstrated how space science and technology could help solve a real problem faced by the society. He was also deeply committed to education and played a key role in shaping the national education policy of India. He believed that education system should encourage creativity, curiosity, and clear thinking. Dr. Kasturirangan was a humble and kind person, according to my experience. Dr. Rangan was the president of Current Science Association from 2019 to 21. He played an important role in improving Current Science Journal, starting from its appearance to fundraising. Everything. I don't have to list everything. Many of you know this. He also guided in enhancing the visibility of the journal as well as its impact factor. When he was the director of NEAS, I had the privilege to have a breakfast meeting with him during Saturdays. In a few such meetings, we used to have in-depth discussions about various innovative approaches to tackle global warming and many other topics. But this was a topic often we discussed. He was always worried about global warming. He considered it as one of the major challenges faced by the society in future, or the humanity. In Raman Research Institute, on numerous occasions, I had the privilege to have lunch with him, and subsequent discussions were revolving around space, climate change, environment, education, outreach activities, interactions with the policymakers and public, and so on. While he was in RRI, I got an opportunity also to work with him on a report on climate change and food security. I learned a lot about from that report. We lost a great scientist, a remarkable mind, and I personally lost a valuable mentor. We should remember the legacy of a man who dreamed big, worked hard, and dedicated his life to the service of our nation. May his soul rest in peace. We will continue to be inspired by his example, and his vision continue to light our path forward. Thank you all.
So much comes with you, Dr. Kasturirangan. How has the journey been?
It has been very eventful. It has been very, very challenging. And most importantly, I feel very nostalgic about the whole experience because I think this country gave me an opportunity to do things by an ordinary Indian. I had nothing very special about me, either in the birth or in the growth or in the family background. But I am what I am only because I am an Indian, and the right people note you at the right time and place you at the right point. And that's what has happened.
You started off very early, almost at the bottom in ISRO, and to become chairman. As chairman, what were the defining things you did? And you had so many.
Oh, first of all, I should say that in those years, they made me a chairman at the age of 52 years. So I think it gave me enough time to see things happening which you have started or which others have started. This is one thing. The PSLV was in the final stage, which has become today the workhorse. So I had the very important and pleasant duty of putting it in an operational state. Then came the question of a GSLV, to put geosynchronous satellites into geosynchronous transfer orbit, a heavier vehicle, a new configuration, and we were in the final stages of getting it into position. And then a series of remote sensing satellites, taking right down to 1 meter, we operationalized it. So we had one of the best constellation of remote sensing satellites in optical, microwave, infrared, one of the few countries which had multiplicity of wavelengths and multiplicity of other capabilities for a comprehensive remote sensing program. India had one of the largest constellation in the civilian domain.
One particular mission which has your full signature on it is India's maiden mission to the moon. You took Indian Space Research Organization, which was hovering in the gravity of Earth, outside Earth's gravity to the moon.
Yeah, that's a nice way.
Chandrayaan 1, which later got christened as Chandrayaan 1. How did you do such an audacious thinking?
We have the ability to build spacecrafts which can go to planetary systems. We did an analysis of all that, and that is the one that I presented in Delhi. The other part of it is the question of international cooperation. We got a lot of 6 instruments came from outside. That shows the importance of this. And so the entire process of a planetary exploration has caught the imagination of India, caught the imagination of international community, and has very, very significantly contributed to the science. There is plenty of problems with the moon, even though it has been visited by Soviet Union and Russia and America. There are the fundamental questions of how the moon came, how it originated, how it evolved was still this thing. And the moon has stopped its evolution after 2 billion years. So you have a pristine object there in space who has not evolved later, whereas Earth has evolved. Other planetary systems have evolved. So if you want to sample something which has not evolved and therefore it gives you a history 2 billion years back, that is the object you should go. So that is another kind of a thing. And lastly, water. There is always this question that tomorrow if you want to really exploit the moon and use it as a platform for other missions, you need water, you need oxygen. And that is something which everybody was searching. it was what you call searching a holy grail, you will say. And that is where we hit the jackpot.
If Nobel laureate Dr. C.V. Raman was cutting and shaping diamonds in the last century, in the 21st century, it is Dr. Krishnaswamy Kasturirangan who is shaping India's young diamonds. How difficult or easy was it to formulate a policy for 1.3 billion Indians?
The policy that we have crafted is the one that addresses the questions of what kind of requirements are there in the 21st century, dynamic characteristics of the changes in the knowledge spectrum, and the way these changes have to be respected and appropriately responded by the people who do jobs or other kinds of endeavors, the government's determination to upgrade every aspect of education and make sure that research will occupy a central place in the higher education. And obviously, outcomes like Nobel laureate should become much more commonplace than a rarity. And I hope, even in our lifetime, fellow, you will be able to hold more such medals in the years to come to inspire the youngsters and also to make sure that India is a proud place for many Nobel Prize destinations.
have a video message from Professor Ashutosh Sharma, President of INSA, former Secretary of DST.
We have gathered here with heavy hearts to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. K. Kasturirangan, a visionary leader who has left a lasting mark on India's scientific, technological, and academic landscapes. As a distinguished scientist and former chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization, Dr. Kasturirangan's contributions to the field of space exploration are of course truly remarkable and widely appreciated and known. His leadership played a pivotal role in establishing India as a major spacefaring nation with significant advancements in satellite technology and Earth observations. Some of the notable achievements of his leadership were development of operational remote sensing satellites, successful launch of PSLV and GSLV, and several advancements in space science. As a scientist, Dr. Kasturirangan's research interests included high-energy X-ray and gamma-ray astronomy, and he has made significant contributions to the study of cosmic X-ray sources and celestial gamma rays. As a testament to his exceptional service, Dr. Kasturirangan was awarded numerous honors, including Padma Vibhushan in 2000 and Fellowship of INSA. Today, the Indian National Science Academy mourns the loss of one of its most distinguished fellows. The Indian National Science Academy remembers Dr. Kasturirangan's tireless efforts to promote scientific research and development in India. His commitment to excellence and his passion for innovation have been an inspiration to us all. Dr. Kasturirangan's legacy extends far beyond his scientific achievements. He inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and innovators, and his leadership played a significant role in shaping India's scientific institutions and policies. I have had the good fortune and pleasure to interact with him several times over an extended period, especially when I was in Department of Science and Technology. DST remembers Dr. Kasturirangan's tireless efforts to promote science and technology research and development. I recall his keen insights and dedication while chairing several committees of the DST. I was amazed that he personally knew the strengths and weaknesses of a plethora of scientists and their works, while serving as the chair of a committee to select the director of an astronomy research institution. I have had several fruitful interactions with him on his plans to steer RRI to ever newer heights. It was later that I realized he had equally brilliant ideas also on higher education, as reflected in that classic NEP 2020, which is a turning point in the history of education in the country. His legacy will continue to inspire us to strive for excellence and push the boundaries of human knowledge. I will greatly miss his easy and friendly mannerisms, helpful nature, and warmth. On my own behalf, on behalf of INSA, I offer our deepest condolences to Dr. Kasturirangan's family, co-workers, and loved ones. His contribution to India's scientific progress will be cherished and remembered for generations to come. Om Shanti.
I'd like to invite Srimati Brinda Nagarajan, Personal Secretary to Dr. Rangan, on behalf of Dr. Rangan's sons. So this is a very special speech.
Thank you, Professor Dhawan. I express my sincere gratitude to Professor Tarun Saradeep and Professor Raghavan Vardarajan for honoring the request of Rajesh and Sanjay Rangan through permitting me to read their message, and I quote, "It is a missed opportunity to not be able to participate in Dad's remembrance. We always enjoyed going to Dad's workplace to experience his work life, the people he interacted with, and more importantly, the food and drinks we were given. RRI was one of his favorite places as he always found comfort and pleasure working here. In fact, we cherish all the beautiful memories we have spent walking together with Dad in RRI's green surroundings in the evenings. Now, as we look back, all those experiences are treasures. What makes this a missed opportunity is that we love to hear about Dad from others, about him as a person and as a professional. Hearing these words gives us some succor in this daunting time. A few words about the personal side of Dad. He was loving, kind, and constantly concerned about us, even into his late 80s, something I'm sure every parent does. It was great to experience his bountiful energy, whether in person or when I video called him. Ever so often, he would chide us for not taking sufficient care of our physical self through exercise, and we had grown to love hearing the love, concern, and care in this chide rather than his annoyance. When we were children, he was similarly energetic and a larger-than-life father in things he did, like how quickly and concisely he wrote a note to my teacher on why I was not able to attend school. When I mentioned this to him, he said that you too will learn it in time. Ever so kind and encouraging. He also had this sharp side to him, which my mom generously used to keep us in check. I can go on spending my time just thinking about him. Now, just beautiful memories remain. I would like to leave this memory with all of you. Dad loved meeting and interacting with people. He never liked to talk ill about others and was always willing to help if he could. He cared deeply and enjoyed seeing others being successful. He held high standards for himself, be it ethics, knowledge, or commitments, and was always filled with gratitude. To end, we want to thank RRI for taking good care of him to the end, including the excellent arrangements done for the viewing. There are many people past and present in RRI to thank, and I'm afraid I will miss names and therefore not calling out individuals. You know who you are, and will always be indebted to your love and care for that. Thank you, unquote. If I may take just another minute of your time to share my own thoughts, I would like to start by quoting Dr. Rangan's favorite lines. Life is a many-splendored thing. One should know how to make it interesting, exciting, beautiful, and above all, beneficial to our fellow human beings in the society. These are the words that he lived by until the very end. I'm sure though we will all miss his presence immensely, Dr. Rangan is immortal through the extraordinary legacy that he has left behind, through the numerous policies he has shaped, the scientific advancements he has pioneered, and the countless lives he has touched and inspired. It would be remiss if I don't mention how truly fortunate I am to have had the unique chance to associate with an individual as remarkable as Dr. Rangan, and an association that has deeply impacted and enriched my life. I was privileged to experience firsthand the unconditional care, love, and warmth and concern that Dr. Rangan would shower anyone around him with. I will miss these the most. I'm forever grateful to RRI for putting me in the extraordinary orbit of Dr. Rangan. Thank you.
Thank you, Brinda. I'd like to invite Professor Ramnath Kaushik, who's currently the James S. McDonnell Professor of Space Sciences at Washington University, to share his thoughts.
Dear friends, I'll be rather brief. Kasturirangan was my friend. I met him first in the C hostel of Osmania University, perhaps I think it is 1966, if I remember right. And we were flying balloons to study, cosmic rays, X-rays, look for X-ray sources, and various things. We were flying balloons there. And it was during the summer months, the hostel is vacant. And so we used to be there, and in their field, we will fly balloons. And India was the only country which was flying hydrogen balloons. In the US, they would not allow such a thing, and it will be helium balloons. And that's when I first met him. And of course, he was from PRL, and I was from TIFR, and our roads didn't cross that often. And but I got to know of his work because, common interest in the scientific questions that were being asked those days. What I want to
recall are few momentary interactions I've had with him. They were not extended, very brief, and maybe they will shed some light on his personality, and also in some way of expressing my indebtedness to him for the support he accorded. Most people called him Rangan or Dr. Rangan. I always called him Kasturi. And, he would often be shocked because I never addressed him in public or circumstances as Kasturi. I always called him Dr. Rangan. But only when we were together, I would call him Kasturi. Of course, he called me Ramnath and I called him Kasturi. That was the situation. And the one or two instances that I want to tell you about, I think Professor Ramurthy from DST, he hinted on it. He drafted the recommendation after looking through the project report for setting up the observatory in Hanle. And it was a very interesting experience. And he gave me the draft. And I had half an hour to see if any modifications need to be made in the recommendations. And I more or less sat in his outer office here at ISRO and made a few small changes. And I told his secretary, I don't know who it was at that time, and I told her that if he it need not necessarily that he should accept these suggestions, but fortunately he accepted those suggestions, and he called me later on, and we had a cup of tea together, and that was a brief encounter. And that started the Hanle program of developing that site as an astronomical site in India. In earnest. Of course, we had worked on it for several years to justify such a commencement. The other occasion is that maybe I should go back and say, talking about Hanle, of course our new director is here. She has written an excellent review of Rangan's contributions. But before Ramurthy, I call them by first name. I mean, pardon me if I don't attach titles to them, because they were close friends. My natural reaction is to call them by first name. And Ramurthy, before him was Dr. Ramrao. And he was the first person to provide initial funds so that we could go and study that thing to make a prima facie case, to make a more detailed survey. So many people have supported it, and the project went on very well, and everything was getting ready. But one important thing was the astronomical images are very data intensive. So just think of some picture. Now in your cell phone you have, 5 megapixels or 10 megapixels of camera, and you need to, and it can take a picture in a millisecond or maybe 10 milliseconds. So the data is very data heavy, this transmission of images. And for our CCDs, they were not as advanced as these CCDs. Still the data rate was very high, and we needed a dedicated link from Hanle to Bangalore for downloading the images. Whatever was observed one night will take more than 1 day of continuous connection to Hanle
to be able to download the images. So that is, if some experiment was done, some of them was stored and some of them will be transmitted immediately. So this was a very large requirement. And the government of India had a separate division for allocation of bandwidth for communications. Even though the communications was allowed, the allocation of bandwidth was a problem. And I went and talked to Rangan what we should do. And Rangan said, Kasturi said that I only put up the bandwidth capability, transducers I put in there, but I don't distribute the bandwidth. In fact, Department of Science does not distribute the bandwidth. It's a different department of the government. And so we thought what we should do. He said there are some geostationary satellites which have lost their orbit a little bit. That is, because of friction and other things, their speeds change, and it is drifting, and they don't want that. These transponders are there with enormous amount of bandwidth there. So if you want I'll give you access to those if you want, because nobody wants them. But to be able to get that bandwidth, you have to steer your antenna every 15 days to catch it. Most people don't want to do that, but you are a scientific organization, you can do. And I said, happily, yes, this is wonderful, please give it to us. And we started our tests on image transfer using that. And fortunately, by the time of first light, which was 2000 September, I forget the date, there was no real date because we saw the first light between 26th and 27th midnight or something like that. That was when the first light, that is the first image was obtained with the telescope. And by that time, the bandwidth situation had changed, especially thanks to Narayan Murthy. And he has been broadcasting. They are wasting so much bandwidth by delaying people not using it. It's just sitting there. It has to be given out to people. There's more bandwidth than everybody's need. In fact, we can't use the amount of bandwidth that has been put up in the sky. And of course, the government of India changed its procedure for getting the bandwidth. By the time of first light, we had actually a regular bandwidth which is properly done, and success followed. So I recall these moments, brief moments of interaction with him, and even subsequently once or twice, purely as a friend, I would visit him, and we'll have a pleasant afternoon or an evening together. So with these few remarks, I just want to pay my respects to a dear old friend, Kasturi. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kaushik. I don't think anybody else would call him Kasturi. I now invite Professor M.K. Sridhar from Chanakya University.
Namaskar. First of all, I pay my respect to Dr. Rangan, Dr. Narlikar, and Dr. Srinivasan, and also the innumerable souls who sacrificed for defending the country. Why I am doing this is, that is the spirit of life and message of Dr. Rangan. Friends, my association with him starts from 2008 with Karnataka Knowledge Commission first, and then National Education Policy, and then National Curriculum Framework for School Education. What I would like to say is, I have seen and spent time from all dimensions with him, starting from his office to his bedroom and to his puja room, and very frequently to the dining table. So all such moments I have spent with him. So therefore, I am able to give a few of my own thoughts. The first thing what I feel is, he is a transformative leader. He is not just a leader. See, why I call him as a transformative leader is because his known field is science, space, technology, etc. But when he came to Knowledge Commission, it was a state government. He was traveling to unknown world. And when he came to education policy, I am not saying in that sense unknown world, but you have not done that kind of expertise in that. But the way he picked up and the way he developed that vision is extraordinary. So therefore, I feel from known to unknown is one of the transformative leaders. The second thing why I would like to call him as transformative leader, because he leads from head as well as heart. See, these are the two important things. Head, no doubt, is an eminent scientist. But heart for everything, for everyone. So I always call him as Dr. Rangan 360-degree outreach person. He will reach out to everyone. For example, when a meeting is going to start, as soon as he comes, he will go and visit everyone and shake hands, not only just the members, but all others who are sitting. See, this is the kind of spirit. And I remember when we visited Karnataka University, Dharwad, there was an interaction with students. And then one student got up and said, I don't approve of your education. We had gone there to seek their views on education. And the student said, Dr. Rangan, see, I pass in everything but in one subject, but you call me as a failed student. That was in 2010. But you may not believe, friends, he remembered that point when the national education policy was being drafted. He took care to ensure that we need to give credit to every student to complete some stage of education. First year diploma, second year certificate, diploma, degree, things like that. Means he valued that entire feedback. The third point what I would like to say is the kind of education perspective that he had. He was always telling us, whenever, we were sitting in the policy making meetings, he always used to say, you will have to imagine yourself 2040 and plus beyond. And after setting up of Chanakya University, for which he chaired the International Advisory Council, once when we went and met him and informed him that we would like to conform to the provisions of the national education policy 100%. Do you know what he said? What, Sridhar? Why do you follow policy? You'll have to go beyond policy. That is the kind of vision that he was always telling. And working with and beyond government. Working with government, yes. And he also used to work beyond government. This is a very, very interesting thing. And friends, I feel, he was part and parcel of Chanakya University. And being the person who headed the entire International Advisory Council and has been inspiring us from time to time, which we are coming up. And every time he used to come, after 80, he climbed all the 4 stairs to inspect the construction. When he was not well, he came. So that's why I personally feel Chanakya University misses him, no doubt, but I personally miss him like anything, because he has been one of the great inspiration to me personally and to the entire field of education. So I pay my homage, and the real homage comes not just from expressing words, but putting that entire spirit into action. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Professor Sridhar. I'd like to invite Dr. Leena Wadia to say a few words.
I want to start by saying thank you to RRI and the Indian Academy of Sciences. This place has become our workplace in the last 10 years, ever since I met Dr. Rangan. I met him here first time in his office in 2014 in the context of a science education report that we were preparing for the Science Congress that was going to happen in Mumbai in January 2015. ORF was based, I worked for ORF at that time. ORF was based in Bombay, and so I flew over to discuss the report with Dr. Rangan, and I was surprised at the extent of interest he took in the report. He helped us to write a very strong report. In fact, that report already talks about his love, which was mentioned here, human resource development. It talks about making a strong research workforce in universities, and it talks about encouraging entrepreneurship and so on. The next thing that happened was that by the time we finished this work, the government of India had announced the national education policy. And within a few months, Karnataka government said, we will make our own policy, and entrusted Dr. Rangan with that opportunity. He was chairing the Karnataka Knowledge Commission at that time. So he made me the member secretary of that committee. I didn't know what it meant, but I realized that it was about writing the policy. But that gave me a lot of quality time with him, because I ended up sitting down with him and poring over details. So what that exercise, the committee to create the KSEP was a stellar one. So many luminaries. When I look back, I think that we all got a preparation for the national education policy, which we didn't know was coming, but it was on its way. So we submitted the KSEP in October 2016. Then in 2017, he called me and said that I have been asked to make the national policy. I have a committee. I'm trying to make a research group. Would you like to be on it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, what an opportunity. So I turned around and asked him, do you really need to ask? And he started laughing. Then he said, okay, so that's it. That's how we started. And, my observation is that he was completely cognizant of how large the opportunity to impact the country was through the national education policy, impact the life of every child in a positive way. So everything he did after that reflected that knowledge, and therefore his incredible hard work, long hours and so on. And he made sure that the policy was inclusive both in its consultations and in broad-based acceptance. So he, went out and drove for 4 or 5 hours to meet people who wanted to give him inputs, and they couldn't come. So he consulted not only people who were part of the policy process, but people who were completely outside, but those whom he knew had expertise. So he was, and when he found something new, he would read extensively around it. And so people have talked about him being a consensus builder, and that's what he was doing, that he was unearthing so many facts that in the end, the recommendations of the policy just fell out by consensus, most of them. I'm witness to that, actually. And without explicitly saying so, he also laid a framework for us to work. For example, he said that we should not step on the toes of state governments, and that the policy should focus on government schools and colleges, because that's where the most disadvantaged students are. that the policy must invest in teachers and be aligned with India's development goals and many things like that. Once he put that framework, it was easy to do research and bring out policy recommendations. And some of that research resulted in this focus on foundational literacy and numeracy, which is now so big in India, and also things like recommending teaching children 2 to 3 languages before the age of 10, which has now become a very politicized, but it's clear that from research that children learn any number of languages very easily until the age of 10. So we should obviously make use of it. But in India, there are very large percentage of schools that are single teacher schools. So the question of teaching them a second language doesn't arise. The same teacher cannot talk 2 languages to the children, it confuses them. So all of that happened. And he was, he referred to his work on the national education policy as the mother of all his responsibilities. And that was really true. He took so much effort to, he made it look effortless, but it was not effortless, not by a long shot. When the policy became public, his stress levels and strain levels went up several notches. All of us are witness. That policy document, the draft policy, is 400 plus pages. And, for him to be on top of everything was so hard. All of us, we had chapters allocated to us, like I had research and some other chapters, but he couldn't afford that. He had to know everything about every chapter. And I remember that sometimes he would call us and confirm some things before going on NDTV, for example, to be roasted by Vishnu Shom, So I don't want to close without talking about 2 things, 2 policy recommendations that Dr. Rangan made his own, actually. The first was the National Education Commission, the recommendation to create a National Education Commission. This was an incredibly bold move to try to reform governance of education in India. He suggested the creation of a National Education Commission, which in his own words was a unique reform that would bring in a new approach to governance that will draw considerable expertise through educationists, researchers, and professionals, and provide oversight of the educational system that is consistent with the objectives of a 21st century education. And he placed it under the leadership of the Prime Minister. And he goes on to say why. I won't read that. But you see, this National Education Commission was supposed to provide continuity across elected governments and transferring secretaries and, for the 20 years that the policy was supposed to be valid, And it would have, with Prime Minister at the lead, it would have helped to bring additional investment. It would have brought deeper cooperation with the states. Right now, we don't have that. Government of India is working very hard, but Government of India takes care of less than 10% of the student enrollment in the country. So, but this recommendation didn't even make it out of the draft policy into the main policy. So that's tragic, actually, The other recommendation was about the National Research Foundation. Of course, scientists have been talking about wanting a US NSF type of organization in the country for a very long time. And from the beginning, it was decided that the policy would have a chapter on research. And Manjul and I were allotted to that task, actually. So we went to Dr. Rangan's house in February 2018. He was recovering from an illness then. But it was amazing how in just a few minutes, he added so many touches that were uniquely his, So I'll read out some of them. Of course, the NRF was primarily to be an instrument for building research capacity in universities, something that has been neglected since independence, okay? It would cover research in all disciplines, he underlined that. Then he said that the existing science ministries must continue, but they will be encouraged to contribute 2% of their funds to NRF so that linkages between the science ministries and universities could be built up. He also said that a lot of the strategic ministries like space and defense have a lot of non-strategic research. So he wanted them to hive off some of their non-strategic research to universities so that the linkages again with these departments and would be built up, and capacity would be built up in strategic areas. And of course, PSU and industry and businesses would be encouraged to join. Okay, so that was the report. And of course, he said something else, because he always believed in the importance of expertise. So he said that, expert researchers from all academic institutions in the country must be invited to participate in capacity building. Okay? And the last thing he said was that the line ministry that will serve the NRF, which would be an autonomous institution, must be the education ministry, because that is the ministry that has connection with all the UGC and accreditation and everything else. So that was his vision. Unfortunately, as soon as the policy came out, the Ministry of Education said, no, this is not, hamare bas ki baat nahi hai, we can't do it, and so it started unraveling. But to get back to the NRF, we wrote our first draft, Manjul and I, and at the same time, what was happening was that Spenta was working on a report on basic sciences, and he had this long 8-page dense report on encouraging research and education in the basic sciences ready. So he had shared it with Manjul. So Manjul started circulating our draft and Spenta's draft notes together to many scientists, and immediately we got lots of similar feedback, like Professor Shashidhara sent in some report from ISA, other people, Vijay Raghavan said that they were thinking of similar things. Many people said that. So all those efforts coalesced into the National Research Foundation, that it was not going to be just the education vision, but it was going to be bigger than that. And Spenta and Manjul, Spenta and Vijay then took up the work of creating the DPR, also in consultation with Dr. Rangan and so on. So, but today's ANRF is what has become reality is a science funding organization which is a substitute for SCRB, and that was never the intention. What has been lost is the sharp focus on capacity building, on human resource development, which in all fields that NRF was supposed to do. So I used to talk to Dr. Rangan about all this, and he was well aware that the implementation of the policy was not going as well as it could, But he also had a very keen sense of the battles he could win and the ones he could not win. So there were many people in government continuously consulting him. He was mentoring all of them, but they couldn't get key recommendations through. And he knew that that was a battle he couldn't win, and he let it pass. So I used to bug him very often, saying that, Dr. Rangan, why don't you call this person and say something? Why don't you call that person and say, do this? Why don't you try harder? And then he used to just look sadly at me and say that, we have done our best. And it is now for other people to take it forward. So in his own lifetime, he had handed the baton over. But what is not clear is that who is picking up the baton? And I think what we can do as a tribute to him would be to push the education policy to its potential. If he could do that, we will really realize the transformation that he was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wadia, for that wonderful memories and a reminder of the challenges ahead. We have now an audio message from Professor Shushanta Dattagupta.
In remembering Dr. K. Kasturirangan, I'm recalling my council days in the Indian Academy when I had my first closest interaction with him for nearly 6 years. To me, he was an epitome of a gentleman, easy to approach and converse with. We could argue with him, not always in agreement, and he would listen with a smile and calm on his face. It was hard to decipher the firm resolve of the rocket man behind his polite demeanor. I had occasionally wished, though, that he could take a more definitive stand in conveying the Academy's concerns to the government on various academic issues, given the prominent position in decision making that he enjoyed. Along with the Indian Academy, I also served with Dr. Kasturirangan as president in a committee of the Council of the Indian Institute of Science on faculty promotion matters. These interactions brought him closer to me later as a friend and well-wisher, which gravitated him to Shantiniketan on 2 occasions when I had served Vishwabharati. We had him inaugurate the new Integrated Science Building in April 2014. Vishwabharati was also honored to have him as a recipient of the highest award, Deshikottam. I use this occasion to pay my deepest respect to Dr. K. Kasturirangan.
So we have a few messages from a variety of eminent scientists, and the first one will be read by Tarun from Dr. Kakodkar.
Thank you, Jyotsna. I'll read this message from Dr. Anil Kakodkar, who needs no introduction. So, thank you for your suggestion to join the remembrance event for Dr. Kasturirangan on May 21st, 2025. Unfortunately, I am not in a position to come to RRI that day due to unavoidable reasons. Passing away of Dr. Kasturirangan is a deep loss personally for me, for our space and atomic energy programs, and also for the broader education, science, and technology landscape in the country. Dr. Kasturirangan has left an indelible mark on all these programs and will be remembered for his contributions for a long time. I have had a long and active association with Dr. Kasturirangan for around 3 decades, whether it was in the context of collaborations between BARC and ISRO on development of various technologies, or communicating with opinion makers, particularly the Member of Parliament. Whenever there were important debates on matters related to atomic energy or discussions in apex policy making bodies like the Atomic Energy Commission, working with Dr. Rangan has always been a very constructive and enjoyable exercise. As a member of the Planning Commission, Dr. Kasturirangan has been a great support for all of us in the scientific community. He has been a friend, philosopher, and guide for many science institutions in the country over decades. His wise counsel has always been very valuable. A recent and most profound contribution of Dr. Kasturirangan is his shaping the national education policy and his overseeing its implementation. Clearly, the NEP 2020 would have far-reaching positive consequences in terms of building a capable and vibrant citizenry that will take a Viksit Bharat forward. I personally owe a lot to Dr. Kasturirangan for his sustained support and kindness towards me. He was always there whenever I needed him. His passing away is an irreparable loss for me. As we mourn passing away of our dear Dr. Kasturirangan, my heartfelt condolences to all those near and dear to him, and my respects to the memory of the departed soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun. I'm going to read out a message from Professor Ajit Kembavi, who's from IUCA, a former director of IUCA. This is a tribute that he sent us. He says, I was to travel from Hubli to Bengaluru to be present and say a few words at this memorial meeting for Dr. Kasturirangan. Instead, I'm traveling from Hubli to Pune for Professor Jayant Narlikar's funeral. These are indeed sad times. Like many of us, I've known Dr. Rangan closely for so many years that I've forgotten when I first met him and got him to know him well. He was a father figure, kind, knowledgeable, wise, always approachable and ever ready to help. Many of us have benefited directly and indirectly from interactions with him. I was able to walk into his office more or less freely, wherever it was. On On occasion, he walked into my office for discussions to ask me for something, and also to scold me for something I had either done or not done. Much would have already been said about Dr. Rangan in this meeting, so I'll limit myself to just a few interactions. In the years before the LIGO India project was approved in principle in 2016, I had a number of meetings with the great and the good, seeking their help for getting the project approved. One such meeting was with Dr. Rangan in the boardroom at the RRI, at which some of my colleagues, including, I believe, Tarun Sauradeep and Bala Iyer, were present. Dr. Rangan was being cautious and neutral, considering the scale and cost of the project and the evident difficulties in implementing it. Then he was shown a slide prepared by Professor B. Satyaprakash, which presented the tremendous improvement in source localization which would be achieved if a LIGO detector were to be placed in India. Dr. Rangan said he needed no further justification, and he became an ardent supporter of the project. In 2011, the Planning Commission set up a task force under the chairmanship of Dr. Rangan to consider the setting up of new inter-university centers like IUCAA during the 12th five-year plan. I was member secretary of the task force and had to closely interact with him and other distinguished members of the committee to prepare a report. We had several meetings over a period of time and made potentially far-reaching recommendations for setting up a number of interdisciplinary IUCs. But in spite of the evident success of the existing IUCs and the promises for the future, the report was never implemented. The last significant interaction I had with Dr. Rangan was a couple of years ago in my office in IUCAA with Professor Naresh Dadhik, who was also present. The issue was a plan then in the air to fundamentally alter the nature of the IUCs, including the IUCAA, bringing all of them under one umbrella with the structure of a deemed university. There was a great nervousness about the plan since it could potentially undo few decades of progress and severely affect the careers of talented scientists working for the IUCs. Dr. Rangan patiently discussed the matter with us, but was categorical about one point. If the change was to be implemented as a national policy, then we would have to accept it and adapt ourselves to the new circumstance, finding clever ways to get over the difficulties. On the other hand, if the changes were being brought about due to vested interest, then he would speak against them and make sure that we continued in our well-established manner. I do not know what he said or did, but the clouds soon lifted and we continue to be as we always were. I will forever remain grateful to Dr. Rangan. I think there's a message from Professor Ravi Subramaniam, the former director of RRI, which will be read out by Tarun.
Okay, I'm reading out this message that my predecessor, Professor Ravi Subramaniam, sent the day Dr. Kasturirangan passed away. Dear Jyotsna, Tarun, we are deeply saddened to hear the passing away of Dr. K. Kasturirangan. It's a passing away of another elder statesman of India, a stalwart supporter of Raman Institute, whom we have had the good fortune to have a delightful relation with over more than 2 decades. Dr. Rangan was a genuine friend of the Institute, as a member of the Council, as a member of the Trust, as the chairman of the Council, and as a warm, caring human being. His relationship with the Institute was first as a person who appreciated good science and who simply wanted the Institute to do remarkable science and was ever ready to do anything that he could do to enable that mission. His conduct of the governing bodies was with a youthfulness and energy and with a sharpness of mind that focused on the essential without missing the forest for the trees. With Dr. Rangan as the council chairman, it was a privileged time to be at the Institute. On a separate note, it is doubtful if anyone associated with the Institute truly appreciates the critical value of Rangan's presence at the Institute. His physical occupancy of the office of Professor V. Radhakrishnan on his untimely demise. The idea of getting Rangan to the trust office at RRI was a transformative decision during my time as director. For the Institute, it was indeed fortunate to have Rangan at the Institute every day, an elder statesman whose office any one of us could walk into whenever we wanted, and counsel, and or help beyond our reach. His acceptance of the invitation to be at the Institute was indeed an honor for the Institute, giving RRI a unique status and a larger role far beyond the imagination of its founder, bringing together a diversity of people within its spaces to discourse on a multitude of issues of far-reaching consequences for nation building. Dr. Rangan's presence made the existence of the Institute so much more meaningful that the ambience was a privileged time to be at RRI. Rangan was for us almost like a family friend, a fatherly figure. Lakshmi and I count the delightful evenings at his place and ours as unforgettable. Thank you. So, I'll now move on to a message from Deepanka Bhattacharya, who is former faculty member here, but one of the leads of AstroSat. And so I would like to talk about, read the message from Deepanka Bhattacharya. He is currently at the Ashoka University. It is with immense grief that we mourn the passing of Dr. K. Kasturirangan, a true visionary of Indian science. He cared deeply about growth of science in India and the wide participation of the Indian community in this group. He brought to bear the full support of space technology to further these goals. I had the privilege of interacting closely with him in the context of the AstroSat mission, an effort that transformed Indian astronomy in more than one way. The year 1996 saw the launch of ISRO's mission IRS-P3, which time-shared the platform between Earth observations and X-ray astronomy. The science instrument, called the Indian X-ray Astronomy Experiment, demonstrated its success. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Kasturirangan conceived the idea of a dedicated mission for astronomy and galvanized the astronomy community to define such a mission, which came to be known as AstroSat. He led brainstorming sessions at the ISRO headquarters during 96-97 with members of the scientific community to initiate the concept and gave us all a clear mandate: niche science capability and a wide community participation. 3 years of detailed discussions later, the mission concept was finalized. Despite the anticipated technological challenges, it was decided to use both UV and X-ray astronomy instruments on the same platform in order to ensure the participation and growth of a wider astronomy community. This was Dr. Rangan's firm resolve. The realization of the concept was not easy. It took nearly 15 years to build the science instruments, which was largely done in academic institutions outside ISRO. This was the first large-scale engagement of ISRO with practicing academics, and both sides had a steep cultural learning curve. Dr. Rangan, I had anticipated this and immensely facilitated the process by constituting a highly experienced committee to provide guidance and oversight. Dr. Rangan would himself attend these committee meetings from time to time. He was immensely patient with all of us and infinitely supportive. The mission was close to his heart, and he knew that this was not just any mission. He was forging a new culture of collaborative astronomy in India. The approach allowed many of us, even without prior background in experimental space astronomy, to get involved and fully contribute. Emotionally, he remained deeply connected to the mission. Whenever we happened to meet, even years after launch, the first question he would ask me were the new results from AstroSat. The AstroSat experience has invigorated Indian astronomy in many ways. Multi-institutional collaborations for large projects are now a norm rather than exception. The ambition and confidence are much enhanced, and close bonds are developed between the Space Department and the academic community, paving the way for a continuing engagement in space astronomy. We all owe this to the visionary leadership of Dr. Rangan. We will dearly miss his advice, guidance, and constructive critique in our journey forward, but the memory of his vision and support will continue to illuminate our path forward. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun. I invite Professor Annapurni Subramaniam, the director of the Institute of Astrophysics and Astronomy, to come and say a few words.
Namaskaram. Thanks to RRI Trust and Indian Academy of Sciences for arranging this program. And thank you for asking me to talk, share a few words on this occasion. I stand here as the director of Indian Institute of Astrophysics, as a member of the Governing Council of RRI, and also as a member of the astronomical community of India, who has thoroughly benefited from his support, guidance, and contributions. So after his passing, I was requested by Hindu to write an obituary, and this appeared in Frontline. And I'm just sharing a few points. I brought it out in that particular article. K. Kasturirangan was a rare personality who contributed to diverse fields such as Indian space missions, national policy, environment, education, and institution building. In him, we see an amalgamation of radiating passion, as we see from his smile over here, boundless energy and enthusiasm, and an inquisitive mind combined with an uncompromising quest to bring out the best in every initiative. He remained eager to learn new ideas, explore new areas, and take up challenging tasks across diverse fields throughout his life, while always appreciating achievements by giving due credit to teams, molding individuals and programs, and above all, remaining a warm human being. It's not very often that we come across a personality like Kasturirangan. The nation has lost a luminary. Fondly called Dr. Rangan, he belonged to a generation that witnessed the country's journey since the independence and that grew along with it. With a burning desire to make the nation self-sufficient and a front-runner in cutting-edge technology and science discovery, his contribution to space science programs was unparalleled, beginning with the first Indian mission Aryabhatta, launched 50 years ago. Trained in basic sciences, his journey from the Physical Research Laboratory to the highest position in the Indian Space Research Organization was exemplary. His areas of interest included high-energy astrophysics, X-ray astronomy, and astronomical instrumentation. It's very specific because he supported, guided, and wanted people to contribute to astronomical instrumentation throughout his life. And he was keen to attract the best talent in the world to come to India to work on futuristic experiments. Now, coming to the institution building, he has contributed to the growth of many academic institutions, but he has provided guidance to almost all the institutions in the country which has the specialization on astronomy and astrophysics and space sciences, by either heading its governing boards or supporting in any form, like whatever positions, and mostly in the terms of guiding and support. He nurtured the Aryabhatta Research Institute of Observational Sciences, ARIES in Nainital, right from its inception, and also through its progress in its growth. Under his leadership, ARIES set up the largest telescope facility in the country, which is the 3.4 meter DOT, the 4 meter liquid mirror telescope, as well as the ST radar facilities. Most of the major facilities in the fields benefited from his valuable guidance, either it be the ground-based facility from India or the space-based facility. Until recently, he chaired the governing boards of IUCA as well as the TIFR. So he also chaired the Governing Council of Indian Institute of Astrophysics when the institute was constructing the ultraviolet imaging telescope as part of the AstroSat mission, because that was one of the very first missions and very complex missions with multiple payloads coming from multiple research organizations, which is being integrated by ISRO, which is the first task, and diverse teams. These teams have not talked across. So bringing them together and making us a team and deliver the science at the end of the day, not only a successful mission, was an immense program, and he really steered it very well, and his leadership was crucial to the success of the fabrication of UVIT, including the setting up of the Space Science Laboratory, where UVIT was integrated, because it's the first of its kind in the country, and it had to be set up for its successful integration and delivery. Now, this laboratory which went on to integrate the UV-80, now integrated the VLC instrument on Aditya L1 mission. Now it goes beyond that. Now it also supports several space startup and payload testing. So you can actually see the seed which is sowed is grown into so many aspects of it. The AstroSat took shape under his guidance, and he personally monitored the scientific, technical, and managerial aspect of it. He co-authored the article summarizing the 5-year scientific achievements of AstroSat mission. The 5-year achievements and the papers were published by the Indian Academy of Sciences Journal, the Journal of Astrophysics and Astronomy. An academician at his heart, he maintained an unwavering and uncompromising approach to scientific pursuits. His energy and enthusiasm for discussing scientific topics with a passion for pushing the boundaries of discoveries were unparalleled. I have had several experiences to have a 10-minute discussion just to present the upcoming results or what we have found from UVIT. He would have so many ideas, and I would go back and think about it for months together. He's also wished to push the scientific discoveries of Chandrayaan and Aditya L1 along with the VLC mission. Pushing it to the L1 point was also very well known. With the passing of Rangan, the scientific community has lost a passionate and enthusiastic mentor. To add a recent support, he believed in Make in India and pushed for the nation to become self-reliant in critical technologies. A visionary, he planned many futuristic missions that helped develop capacity building in the country. His hallmark was the ensuring that each mission contributed to building capacity in critical technologies alongside achieving the impactful scientific output. He was a keen supporter of the 30-meter telescope project and was determined that India should develop a critical know-how required. He was particularly keen that India contribute to major hardware to the project and thereby master segmented mirror technology. He was very happy to witness the setting up of the large mirror fabrication facility in India, and this was in the Hoskote campus he visited, and we have the notes from him encouraging us and congratulating us on it. I was happy to see Brinda showcasing a picture taken at Hawaii during his trip to Hawaii a few years ago. And I also should mention that he supported the Indian astronomical community, and he headed the Astronomical Society of India as the president from 1995 to 1997. And on behalf of the Astronomical Society of India, we thank for his contribution and guidance. It was an immense support from him. And recently, I was thrilled to receive a letter from him personally congratulating me on being selected for the Vigyan Shri Award in 2024 in Space Science and Technology. This was something which, it was mentioned earlier that he would make people feel very special. So he's left behind a monumental legacy and has set very high standards. I think we have to at least work very hard to meet the standards. He'll be missed by numerous organizations, academicians, educationalists, policymakers. I think the list goes on and on and on. There are countless lessons he has provided to us to learn and imbibe in our journeys. The nation has lost an illustrious and visionary space scientist, the one who truly conquered space and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Annapurni. I'll read out a brief message from Professor R. Sri Anand, from the current director of IUCAA. Professor Sri Anand writes, "We at IUCAA are deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Dr. K. Kasturirangan. He was a dedicated academic and one of the most distinguished science administrators in the country. As you know, he served as chairman of IUCAA's governing board for nearly 2 terms. He was our guardian and well-wisher, deeply involved in many of our activities, and played a pivotal role in guiding the growth of IUCAA and several mega science projects. I personally benefited greatly from his wisdom and support. We will truly miss him and his guidance. Our heartfelt condolences to his family." I'd like to invite Professor Sandeep Trivedi, former director of TIFR, to share his memories.
Thank you very much. It's late in the day, so I'll keep my remarks brief. It's, of course, a great privilege to be asked to speak here today. Thank you for that. Dr. Kasturirangan was such a giant, I think, in India, especially in the world of science and science administration, that he's left an indelible mark. We have seen that today, and especially has meant the world for us in TIFR. Professor Chenglur already spoke about the wider context of all his contributions for TIFR earlier in the morning. I'll just be a little brief and make it a little more personal, maybe bring a smile or two in your faces, remembering his wonderful smile. I took a very early morning flight today, getting up at 4 a.m., and I was reminded of one of my first meetings with Dr. Kasturirangan, which also involves an early morning flight. And the context was when he was in the planning commission, the Higgs boson was discovered at CERN. And this was a remarkable achievement. The detectors were enormously complicated. The data pipeline was very sophisticated. And India, in particular, TIFR had built part of the edgy calorimeter of the CMS detector and also helped in the data pipelines. So anyway, I got a message from the TIFR director, my predecessor, Professor Barma, that I was to go to the planning commission and make a presentation to Dr. Kasturirangan and a few other members of the commission, telling them about the significance of this discovery, India's role, and so on. Now, I was a greenhorn, but even I knew this was a big deal. So I prepared very hard and had a presentation ready. But on the fateful morning, somehow my alarm didn't go off. And I scrambled and tried my best, but I reached Dr. Kasturirangan's office an hour late. Now, I was quaking in my boots. Very sheepishly, I started mumbling something. He cut me off immediately. He said, understanding what had happened, and wagging his finger, he said, "You overslept. You missed your flight." And then when I thought he was going to give it to me, suddenly he broke out into the smile. And in fact, started laughing, and he said, "You know, that's the problem with you scientists. You can never get up early." And you know, he just lightened the mood. But then he did something amazing for me. He got up from his chair. He told me, "Your presentation better be good." And he personally walked to the office of all the other members who were supposed to join the meeting. And he told each one of them, he said, "Look, this young man has come. He's delayed things, but he's got a great presentation. Please spare the time." And you know, because of that personal, the personal touch, they must be, I don't know how busy, but they all put aside what they were doing, joined the meeting. We had a wonderful 2-hour interaction in which Dr. Kasturirangan, in fact, intervened scientifically at some key points, explaining things more clearly, you know, to a wider audience than I could have. The whole thing left such a big impact on me. And at the end of that, you know, he said to me, he said, "Okay, you did a good job. Now you have earned your lunch. Come over and have dosas at my place." So, you know, the generosity of spirit, the kindness, goodness, and also I felt here was somebody, he saw the situation and turned it around and made the best of it. You know, these had a big impact on me. Of course, I saw all this much more as TIFR director, where I had the privilege of having him on the council and also on the Atomic Energy Commission, and it was invaluable. You know, I have to say that there were many occasions after the council meeting when I used to request him to stay back and help me decode what had been said in the council. Because you see, there are people with varied experiences. I'm a scientist. I couldn't always figure out. And Dr. Rangan was always very generous. He would stay back. And you know, I could just see how he was so naturally a gifted scientific administrator. He could see issues from many different points of view. He knew which issues could be pushed, which couldn't, which battles were worth fighting, which one shouldn't. And of course, he knew many people, anything he could do. He was generous to a fault, he would help. It was just invaluable. He understood what TIFR was about, why you had to preserve our core and our autonomy, and was an invaluable ally. I cannot express my indebtedness to him, and I think the institution and many institutions which he was part of owe him a tremendous amount. I'll just end with one more small thing, and Jairam mentioned this. One of the wonderful traditions is that prior to the council meetings, the TIFR director has dinner with the out-of-station members. And this was meant usually Professor C.N.R. Rao and Dr. Kasturirangan, and then afterwards, when Professor Rao was no longer on the council, just Dr. Kasturirangan. And these were wonderful opportunities, some of my most cherished memories, because I could sometimes draw him out to talk about his own personal recollections and so on. And he spoke with great feeling about the influence his mentors in ISRO, Professor Dhawan and of course, Dr. Sarabhai himself and so on, had on shaping him. And he gave me one example and then would always connect it to what we could do in TIFR. So I felt there was also a sort of very gentle mentoring that he was doing in the process, And so he told me once about how, when he was not very senior, and he has written about this in space in his book, Professor Dhawan called him and said, you must give a major public talk in the Indian Academy of Sciences, so I want to mention it here, on transparency in failures. Everybody knows about our successes in ISRO, he said, but I want you to talk about our failures. Because if the public doesn't understand how we deal with failures, they will never trust us in full measure. And so Dr. Kasturirangan said this was daunting, but he tried to rise to the challenge with a lot of help from Professor Dhawan, and how that changed his thinking and how this kind of a culture changed ISRO over time. And then he told me at the end of that conversation, he said, so you see, Sandeep, it's very important to review your institution. It's important to know what TIFR does well, but it's more important to know what we are not doing well, and it's important to acknowledge where we have failed. And, it was really something, I think it came from a deep sense of integrity, in his heart, about what science should be, honesty. And he really emphasized that. Thanks to him, we reviewed the entire TIFR organization, all of the departments in Mumbai, all our centers, and it was a wonderful effort. He was deeply invested in it, and we got a wonderful bird's eye view. And so he would do this, and I'll just stop. AstroSat has been mentioned many times. I'll just mention it. TIFR contributed, if I may say, 3 of the 4 payloads, the X-ray instruments. And so, we were happy about it and so on. But after a year, Dr. Kasturirangan told me, he said, okay, let's do a review. Okay, this is characteristic of him. Let's do a review. And then he gave me a little time to think about it. And then he said, so how do you propose to do the review? So I told him, so he said, okay, well and good. But then he added his own element. He said, Caltech has launched an X-ray satellite, X-ray payload on a satellite at about the same time. Let's begin by doing a comparative timeline. Now that itself turned out to be immensely educational. It turned out Caltech had taken 10 years from scratch to launch. We had taken 10 years. But if you looked at where the time went, it was completely different. Caltech developed the payload in 5 years, had a little off here or there, had to wait a long time to get a launch window. We developed it at 9 years, and ISRO was knocking on my door as TIFR director from from 5 years on, saying, give us the payload, we want to launch. So it brought out the comparative strengths and where we could do better. So he was always like that. We will miss him, his tremendous energy, positivity, and his kind-hearted, good soul. He was all about doing good in whatever way he could. I think that legacy, that spirit, I think we must take forward. And that will be, I feel, for all of us, the true way to honor this great son of India. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Those are wonderful memories. So we're going to end with a brief sort of personal recollections from me. So I just wanted to show a few pictures of the young Rangan. And, this picture, the earlier picture, I was just struck by the informality. Here he is with Mr. Ranganath, former Chief Secretary. This picture, I love the informality of the interactions. It gives you a feeling of the camaraderie of ISRO. This was at a very solemn occasion at Shar, where they were dedicating a statue to my dad. But Dr. Rangan made us all smile, so it was a wonderful occasion. So I just want to end by saying that, we live in a cynical world where we doubt everything, particularly the ability of individuals to bring any change to the myriad problems that we see all around us. So when we encounter a man who is so invested and passionate, so sincere in all of his endeavors, we realize that there's actually little room for cynicism. In reflecting on Dr. Rangan's life and his career, his sincerity and commitment shines bright. One might say that people like Dr. Rangan are an antidote to cynicism, a demonstration of how one can pour oneself into one's work, take on many very different and challenging tasks, and not lose either one's perspective or one's sense of humor. A few weeks before his death, Tarun and I visited Dr. Rangan. He was noticeably frail, but he permitted very little discussion about his health. He dismissed all focus on his recent hospitalization. Rather, he was kind of bubbling and seething with ideas, wanting to convey very urgently all the issues which he saw were relevant to the progression of the RRI and the Raman Trust and beyond. It felt to us that he had a sense that time was short, but there was no wallowing in self-interest, just a keen articulation of his hopes for the success of the RRI, an institution with which he had been associated in a variety of formal and informal ways after stepping down from helming ISRO. Now, Dr. Rangan was a regular visitor to our house when my father was alive, and my parents had the greatest respect and fondness for him. We always enjoyed witnessing their meetings, which were filled with this mutual regard of long-standing colleagues. And as you know, Dr. Rangan had a great sense of humor and was a wonderful raconteur. Much later in life, I had the honor of interacting with him at a more professional level in recent years due to serving on the Raman Research Institute Trust, and was very grateful for the long experience and guidance he could provide to me and to that body. It's evident to everyone who came in contact with him how deeply he threw himself into his work and all the issues he cared about. And I think you've heard today from all those that in addition to his work at ISRO, the many issues of national importance that he was called upon to tackle, which took a lot of his attention and effort, and which have inspired many, many people. We will miss his cheerful and positive presence and his huge dedication to the numerous projects he held dear. So, this is a picture provided by Sanjay and Rajesh, and I thought it was a wonderful way to end this morning of remembrances. Thank you all.
Thank you. On behalf of the Raman Research Institute, RRI Trust, and the Academy, let me again thank you all for being here, being a part of this event where we remembered a great soul, not only an inspiring person. I genuinely say that, to me, he is someone who just transformed how I was thinking about going forward in various things. And I should also take this occasion to mention that the meeting was to be attended by Professor Srianand, Professor Shomak Rai Chaudhary, and Professor Ajit Kembhavi. They are the three directors of Ayuka, and Ayuka, where I come from, deeply benefited from Dr. Rangan over many years. And unfortunately, yesterday we had another great loss to the Indian science community. We lost Professor Jayant Narlikar, who passed away peacefully in his sleep. And I'm really glad that Ayuka people turned around and they have sent at least the messages to be read. And I should also mention that they have placed a wreath on behalf of Raman Research Institute and the Trust at the funeral that's happening today. Thank you very much.